Yes, you're watching the South Australian Sports Show. A very special guest, a busy lady, been good enough to give us some of her time. She's the CEO of I Play Sport. Raj Vasan joins us. Raj, how are you?
How are you, Phil? Thank you for having me on the show. Hi,
Lovely to have you in it. Now, just behave yourself, Rock. I get to fire off the first couple of questions. Your charity, I Play Sport, how did it evolve?
Well, we started as the Blind Sporting Council, and we were established in 1996, Phil, by 3 blind Paralympians who actually realised there was no support for athletes who were blind or vision impaired to play sport. So it actually started as a volunteer organisation that started a bit of tin rattling and a bit of telemarketing. And about 10, 15 years later, they actually made enough to establish this as a formal organisation, get a DGR status and an ITEC exempt certificate. And then today we are what you know as I Play Sport, to get a more positive spin on what we do. But if you want us to sum up what we do in a nutshell, all we do is fund blind and vision impaired Australians to participate in sport or recreational activities of their choice. That's what we do.
Fantastic. Just quickly, because we see a lot of bad publicity for charities, that a lot of the money's raised and it all goes to administration. There's a bit of a John Coates story at the moment, that a lot of the funds are going to the wrong people. The funds that go to I Play Sport, how is that spread?
Well, I'm glad you asked this question, Phil, because initially when I started 5 years ago as the chief executive of this organisation, at the risk of losing my job, that's the first thing I did. I did a feasibility study to see if I Play Sport even needed to exist. Because if you think about it, we've got about 13 to 14 different organisations for blind and vision impaired. You know, if you think from Guide Dogs to Vision Australia, Royal Society for the Blind, you name it. So there's a lot of organisations, but what our study showed was, whilst there are a lot of organisations providing programs and services, there is not a single organisation that's focused on sport and recreation for blind and vision impaired athletes. So we've just got Blind Sports Australia that looks after accreditation for sport, but we are purely a funding body, and what we do is assist these people, all the blind and vision impaired Australians, and I'm not talking just elite athletes. You know, not everyone wants to play for Australia, some just want to play.
Yes.
But it's lack of access and opportunity, not, you know, lack of motivation. And that's where we fit in, and that's what we do. Now, what makes us the most transparent and accountable organisation, certainly here in South Australia, is that we work from sponsored premises. So for the last 5 years, we've always had a corporate sponsor. We are currently based in Quattro offices on Fullerton Road. So what happens is, with sponsored premises, administrative support and volunteers, I am the only paid employee of the organisation.
Wow.
And that means 90 cents from every dollar we raise directly goes back into programs and services, and it maximises funds for the end user.
Yep.
Okay. I have one that I'd love to bring up, because you know Phil and I through a few meetings that we've had, but particularly with Phil, you're starting to work closely with your charity and Phil's basketball academy that we want to get up and running in Darwin, with the synergies that can be created there. You're now down the path of a visit to the APY and Central Australia with Phil in an ambassadorial role. What's that focus there? How's that going to come about?
Well, it's about the most exciting and ambitious project that we have really embarked on as an organisation, and I think getting the general on board has really pretty much lifted our game, and not just lifted our game in terms of giving us the credibility that we deserved and giving the project the importance that it deserved, but it suddenly opened up a lot of doors for us, with sponsors being interested, with the client group willing to listen. But what we've noticed as part of our research too, you know, writing some of our annual reports, is although we have over 500,000 Australians who are diagnosed as blind or visually impaired, less than 10 to 15,000 of those Australians are actually active in sport or recreation.
Okay.
So there's clearly a huge gap with these kids not participating in you know, sport and recreational activities. But what further then came about was, particularly with our Indigenous Australians and in the APY lands with our Aboriginal communities, 35% we know at least have vision-related issues, but we don't even have a Bureau of Statistics figure yet in terms of how much vision loss and what access they have to sport and recreation. So we were embarking on some project ideas when we came across Phil's wonderful initiative with the Basketball Academy. And it was only a matter of time before we approached Phil and with our project. And when we saw the idea, when we saw the synergies that existed between the work we were contemplating to roll out in the APY lands. I think for us it certainly made sense, but because of Phil's magnanimity, I think he saw the merit in the project and he said, that's it, I'm being ambassador, I'm happy to give my face and give my time to this project. And what now that means is that we will make a trip to APY lands. We will actually talk about the merits of engaging in a sporting activity. But the difference with what we are planning to do with Phil and what some of the other sporting clubs and organizations have done, I think, is that it's not a flash in the pan. We're not just going to go there for a 2-3 day trial and then leave them for the rest of the year high and dry. We are doing it in a slow and sustained form of training. We are giving opportunities for the community to take ownership of the projects, and more importantly, I think we are offering some attractive incentives towards the end, and a big incentive is obviously some potential scholarships at Phil's Basketball Academy.
Raj, I listen to you talk and you're really passionate about it, and lots of people get into different organisations for different reasons. Just can you tell me what drew you to it and why you're so passionate about it?
I think it's the fact that it's an underdog charity, Phil. I have worked for other charities before, and of course charities have to work as responsible businesses, as we do, but our profit goes obviously back to the community. iPlay Sports started based on volunteer support, and pretty much apart from myself still continues to work on volunteer support. The difference between the funding and the gaps in accessibility for blind and vision impaired people is huge. I mean, even if you look at cricket, for example, and blind cricket as just as an example, it wasn't until last year when Cricket Australia took blind cricket on board, as part of their All Abilities engagement strategy, did our Australian blind cricket even wore the Australian livery for the first time, or got that kind of recognition for the first time. And this is something we're constantly advocating, that there are a lot of parent bodies and parent sporting organizations that I think should be taking on All Abilities sports as under their wing, and hopefully in the next 25 to 50 years we don't need to exist because they have equal access to sporting opportunities. And we're talking Australia, we're a sporting nation. I come from India. I know you can't tell from my accent, but certainly, I have grown up seeing how important sport was when you have little else to look forward to in life. And
Raj, clearly we're going to have to get you back because there's a lot more that we need to uncover about iPlay Sport. Stay with us, people. Still plenty to come on the show.